Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something called safety culture. It's one of those terms you hear a lot, but what does it actually mean? Those invisible forces shaping how safe things really are in a workplace.
It is fascinating, yeah. But our source for today, a review by Guldenmund from back in 2000, points out there's actually a real lack of agreement. He calls it a conceptual morass, basically. A
Mhm.
big, messy tangle of ideas about what safety culture even is, what causes it, what it contains, and, well, what it does.
A conceptual morass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so our job today is kind of untangling that, giving you a clearer view.
Exactly. Let's try and bring some clarity.
Okay, so let's dig in. The source uses Edgar Schein's model of organizational culture. 3 layers, right?
Yeah.
That seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, it's super helpful here. Think of it maybe like an iceberg
Mm.
or an onion, if you
Oh, an
prefer.
iceberg. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's stuff above the water and stuff below.
Right. The bit you see above the water. That's
Yeah.
the outer layer. Artifacts. These are the really tangible things, what you can literally see and hear.
So in a safety context, that would be things like safety posters on the wall,
Yeah,
inspection reports.
exactly. Or whether people are actually wearing their hard hats, their PPE, even things like accident statistics or near miss reports. Visible stuff. But just seeing those artifacts, it's hard to really get what they mean without knowing what's underneath.
Right. The posters are just the tip. So what's the next layer down? The first thing we can maybe measure that tells us a bit more.
Well, that takes us to the middle layer, espoused values. These are the things the organization says it believes in. The stated goals, the philosophies, the official line on safety.
Ah, okay. So the company mission statement stuff, maybe. What they claim their priorities are.
Pretty much. And our source directly connects this layer with safety climate. Safety climate is more about the collective attitudes towards safety you find in the organization.
Attitudes. How do you measure
Yeah.
that? Surveys.
Often, yeah. Questionnaires are common. They might ask about the state of equipment, safety measures, the hardware side, or procedures, training the software, or how people feel about management's commitment or their colleagues' attitudes. And of course, behaviors like risk-taking or how openly people talk about safety issues.
Okay, so climate is attitudes, often measured by surveys. But that's still not the deepest level, is it? What's at the very core of the iceberg?
Right, now we get to the really interesting bit, the core layer, basic assumptions. This is what Schein and Guldenmund following him considers the true safety culture.
Basic assumptions. So things people don't even necessarily think about.
Exactly. They're the implicit, unconscious, taken for granted beliefs that actually drive how people behave. They might not even be explicitly about safety, but they explain why those attitudes, the safety climate, exist and why people act the way they do regarding those visible artifacts.
Can you give an example?
Sure, like imagine an organization where deep down people just assume rules are pointless or management only cares about production speed. Fine. That unspoken basic assumption. It explains why people might have negative attitudes towards safety procedures, why they might not follow them, even if the company says safety is important.
Wow. Okay. So it's what people truly believe deep down, maybe without even realizing it, that shapes everything else.
Precisely. And the source notes, it's a good sign if these core assumptions do actually include safety in a positive way, but often they don't, or they conflict.
That really clarifies the model, but yet it also shows how deep-seated and complex this stuff is. So why is it so difficult for researchers to actually, get a handle on it,
Yeah.
to measure it properly?
Well, I mean, culture isn't like measuring temperature, right? It's what researchers call a construct. It's an abstract concept. That abstract nature means there's loads of freedom in how you define it and try to measure it.
Which leads to different results, I guess.
Exactly. You get this issue of multiple dimensionality. Researchers try to measure lots of different facets, maybe using different tools, like different questionnaires, and they end up with varying pictures. And then there's the level of aggregation problem. How do you know if what individuals say on a survey really adds up to represent the whole organization's climate or culture? It's tricky.
So it's definitely fuzzy.
Yeah.
But is it still useful? I mean, the source isn't saying just give up, right?
Oh, absolutely not. There's real value here. Measuring that safety climate, those attitudes, that can be a really valuable alternative safety performance indicator. It gives you a different perspective beyond just looking at accident numbers, which can be misleading.
And what about digging into those deeper basic assumptions?
Yeah.
The core culture.
That's where the really profound understanding comes in. It's much harder to assess, maybe needing interviews or observation, not just surveys, but understanding those basic assumptions. That's the foundation, the substrate, for genuine, lasting safety improvements. It's how you understand the way we really do things around here. It might even help predict major problems before they lead to accidents.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the key thing you think our listeners should take away from this? Especially thinking about where things can go wrong in practice. I guess for me, it's realizing that focusing only on the surface stuff, the artifacts like posters or even just the stated values, isn't enough. You have to get to those underlying basic assumptions.
That's spot on. If a company puts up safety posters, but the deep down assumption is still we cut corners to meet deadlines, those posters are just window dressing. The underlying assumption will win out.
It explains why sometimes safety initiatives just don't seem to stick, doesn't it? You're treating symptoms, not the root cause.
Precisely. Understanding that core culture, those basic assumptions, is crucial for making changes that actually last.
Which brings us to a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah, if these basic assumptions are so fundamental, so unconscious, and, as the source implies, potentially very slow to change, maybe taking years, how much real power do organizations or even individuals within them actually have to reshape that core culture? And what would that kind of deep change effort really look like day to day? Something to think about.